Well, hello, everyone. So I want to talk a little bit about what I think is the next disruption. And I want to talk a little bit about kind of what we're seeing and what we're thinking at Sitecore and some of the things we've seen some of our customers do as well. This morning, I had a chance to sit in on the makeover session, the Pimp My Website show of Lars and Chris. And it sort of got me thinking about kind of what we're all trying to do with our own sort of digital marketing stuff. So I want to talk about a couple of things. And I got to get my clicker to work. So this guy, his name is John Chambers, ex-CEO of Cisco, right? That little company that made those little router thingies that run the internet. And he was up on stage, much bigger stage, speaking in front of about 2,500 people. And he said something to them pretty provocative. He said, 40% of you will not exist in a meaningful way in about 10 years. And so, and he's talking to CEOs, he's talking to CMOs, CIOs, all these C-level types. And he said, you're not going to exist because of digital disruption. And about 70% of you will try. 70% of you will try, but many of you will fail. Many will fail. And he went on to talk about why. And a lot of it has to do with the nature of how business is changing today. And then he tells the story about what Cisco did, about how they tried to navigate that change, and all the things that they did. And a lot of it was about organizational silos. A lot of it was about how they had to get their own house in order. But bottom line is what he really talked about to this august group of people was you need to rethink your business. You need to rethink your business because folks, our whole market's changing, right? All of our businesses are under threat. And if it's not under threat yet, it's because someone hasn't come up with it yet. But that word yet is really important. Because what happens, and my clicker is not working, so I'm just going to have to stand over here. What happens is when this stuff happens to our industry, the first thing we do is we run to throw some technology at it, right? And there's a buzzword a day that comes out of this new thing that's going to solve all our problems. So we throw technology at these problems. We're often trying to solve the problem because it's easier, right? It's easier to buy something. And this is kind of weird coming from the guy that wants to sell you software, right? But it's true. We tend to throw technology at problems often instead of the harder task, which is to rethink our business and really rethink the business that we're in and what our customers really wanted from us in the first place. But that's a much harder conversation, and often we feel like it's above our pay grade. It's not my gig. It's that CEO guy that's supposed to be doing that. So we don't think about that. But I think part of the problem is we are throwing technology at the wrong problem. And of course, this happens, right? Lumascape, Scott Brinker's crazy 1800 logo slide of all the tech we can buy. Great, we can buy more stuff. We can fix it, right? We always want that magic pill, that piece of technology. But what I want to really talk to you about today is maybe that's not the right answer. Or maybe it's part of the answer, but it's not the only answer. Maybe it's a part of that journey, but I'm going to ask you to think a little differently today. I'm going to kind of put you in a place where you have to sort of challenge some of your own assumptions. And maybe, if I'm successful today, you'll go back home Monday morning, you'll come to the office and go, I think we need to think a little differently about how we're attacking this problem. Because everyone's chasing this dream of experience. And at Sitecore, we've been talking about experience for years. We've been really doubling down on this concept of experience. And these brands up here, they're all known for that, right? Disney is known for the experience that you have, whether you have kids or not, right? My nephew just got married last week, and guess where they're going for their honeymoon? Disney World, right? So there's this experience that they are known for because they've really thought about what customers really wanted, right? This experience that people really want. Amazon, right? I don't know about you, but I'm a total Amazon addict with Prime. But they've really rethought the problem. They've really taken away every barrier that I could possibly have, so boxes just keep showing up at my house. It's magic. God forbid I put that little button in my house. That's going to just bankrupt me. But so Amazon's really rethought the problem, right? They've really rethought the problem. Of course, everyone talks about Uber. Uber is so interesting because they've just totally hijacked that industry, but it's really simple what they've done. Right? At the end of the day, they just gave customers what they wanted. It's a shocking concept, right? They just gave customers what they wanted. All I wanted was a reliable, clean car with a driver that's not surly, right? I just wanted them to show up. I wanted them to know when they'd show up, simple stuff. I just wanted some confidence in the fact that they'd actually show up. Starbucks, we pay way too much money for that coffee, right? It's just coffee. You can get beans for 3 cents. If Michael Seifert's Keynote in Vegas last year, you can get beans for 3 cents. We pay $4 to $5 to $6, $7, for that mega mocha frap flip thing that comes like this. So we pay a lot of money for that. But because it's part of the experience, the barista and what they're doing with you and they're talking to you, it's this experience. You buy that. Apple, of course. Apple is an experience too. Even though they're a product company, they sell an experience, right? They really have transcended products that people wait in line for them, right? That's crazy interesting. When you think about the experience that they deliver to you, it is an experience. They've done that well. And of course, guys like Zappos, right? They'll stay on the phone with you for as long as you want to talk to them, right? They will talk to you about shoes or whatever. And every time they enter a category now, all the other category leaders, their market share drops because they've really rethought the business. They've really rethought the product that they were selling. And, and of course, W Hotels and Hilton now. When I checked into this Hilton, I got an email saying, hey, you want to pick a room? You want to pick a room and make sure you want to get it, exactly the room you want and the layout you want and the facing, which direction you're going to face. Pretty soon, I don't have to even check in. I can use my phone, walk up to the door, and it's going to unlock using, NFC technology, right? So pretty soon they're going to rethink this whole experience about what I want, because I'm a particular kind of traveler. So I don't want to wait in that long line to get my room that I already know what it is. I just want to walk to the room. So again, they're rethinking the problem. They're rethinking the experience. They're rethinking the outcome. Because my fundamental thing, if you'll take one thing away from this thing, is this line. People do not want products. People do not want products. You buy products. You buy products to achieve something. And I'm going to say you buy them to achieve an outcome. Doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you buy, think about it. What have you bought last? Anything significant? You buy them to achieve an outcome. Now, you're going to argue with me that, no, that's not really true, Darren. I bought that car because I wanted a car. No, you didn't. You want to get places. You want to go things. Now, you may want it to look good. Maybe you're a new parent and you wanted to be safe. Maybe there are things driving what you buy and why you buy. And there are outcomes you want. And so when you think about the session before about, they're doing these celebrity makeovers of these, sites and experiences, subtle message in everything that Chris and Lars talked to you about was the outcome. And so now I look at everything. I look at the world now, and all I see is outcomes. It's weird. It's like that Matrix scene where he starts to see everything in Matrix mode. I see outcomes everywhere. It's crazy. Because let's just take a couple of examples. This iPod, right? Steve Jobs gets up on stage years ago and says, 1,000 songs in your pocket. 1,000 songs in your pocket. What was he selling? He was selling a music experience. Because what he did is he wrapped this music player, there were a ton on the market, if you remember, right? There's tons of those things. Zune, remember Zune, right? They finally deprecated that, put that thing out of its misery. But they were selling an experience because it wasn't just a piece of hardware. It was not just a piece of software. It was an exploratory service. Music is art. Music, speaks to each of us differently. And they understood the outcome you were trying to get to. That you wanted that, Nate Barrett, I don't know where you are in this room, but I'm stealing your line, which is the perpetual theme music as you walk through the day. That's what they were selling. They were selling this outcome of feeling great and exploring and identifying new music and really experiencing this art. So they weren't selling a physical player. They were selling an outcome. They had transcended the product, and the product became an outcome, and it became an experience. Mizuno, another interesting company, right? So Mizuno, right, they sell shoes, right? No, they don't. No, they don't sell that. They sell be a better runner. They sell beat your last race time. They sell be a better athlete, go further, work harder, lose weight, get better shape, achievement. They sell achievement. They sell be a better human. They're not selling shoes. They're selling be a better athlete, be better at whatever you do. And they have incredibly loyal fans. They have incredibly loyal customers because they're selling an aspiration, they're selling an achievement of what you can have if you use that product. So they have identified what was core to their customers and the outcome that those customers wanted. So again, they did not want products. They bought products to achieve an outcome, but if you identify what your customers really wanted, what the real outcome is, and it's hard, it's not trivial, but when you do it, the payoff is big. The payoff is really, really big. And I'll tell you a little story about one other customer, European customer. They sell baby products, baby powder, baby food, nutritional materials. And so they're selling all this baby powder, and they realize one day, we're getting under assault from all these different kind of customers and vendors around the world. Globalization's happening to us. We need to do something different. So they decided one day they weren't selling that. They weren't selling baby powder, baby formula anymore. No, they were selling an outcome. Healthy, happy babies and confident parents, particularly confident moms. Because if you remember when you had kids, if you've had kids yet, when you remember back to the early days when you discovered it and then you went on this journey and you realized, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a train wreck. I was personally a train wreck. We had no idea what we were doing. We bought all those books, what to expect when you're expecting. Oh God, calling all your parents, everyone telling you you'll figure it out because you got all this instinct built into you. But we still didn't have any confidence. So we were totally nervous wrecks. So what they realized, what this company, Nutricia Danone, realized is that they could come above selling products. They could differentiate not on the product itself, but on the outcome that the customer really wanted, tapping into the nerve of what that customer wanted. Because of this whole consumerization, now you've probably heard before that the customer has all this power and it's really difficult now. Switching costs are easy. Once upon a time, it was okay to say you can have any color you want as long as it's black. That actually flew for a while, right? Henry Ford got away with that. We can't get away with that anymore. Customers will switch. So if that's the stakes, that's table stakes now, right? We have to be listening. We have to be giving them what they want, or they'll go somewhere else, and someone else will give it to them. The taxi companies used to say, tough, I'm going to show up or I'm not. What are you going to do? Now you go to Uber, right? So there's another Uber around the corner for all of us. There is, and that should keep you up at night because someone's thinking about that. Someone somewhere is thinking about that. So you can't get away with just this is the product. You have to think about the outcome, and you have to think about how you can go further and deeper. So I want you to think for a minute. I want to take you all to this place, this happy place, right? I want to imagine, just take a minute and imagine in your minds the last time you bought something significant, right? Something meaningful to you. And I want you to imagine if that company had sold you the thing, that instead of doing what the product did, and it was the product that they were willing to sell you, instead of that, I want you to think about what would have happened if they'd have built that, whatever it is, or service or thing, in a way that was so perfectly matching what you really wanted. It was so perfectly matching everything you ever wanted to solve the outcome that was driving you to buy that thing in the first place. Just hold that in your mind for a minute. Think about what that would have meant for you. And what it does for me is I think about that. And I think about the things I've bought and the frustration I've had because it didn't quite do what I really wanted. It didn't really fit what I was really trying to get to. But when I find them, when I find those products that are so perfectly fitting what I wanted, I'm so incredibly loyal. I'm so incredibly happy. I tell everybody, right? The word of mouth becomes magic. And what happens is this interesting phenomena of a hockey stick, where you see the meteoric rise of product. I'm going to tell you a story about that. I'm going to tell you a story about this company that did this and the meteoric rise they're having right now. When you hit that nerve, you have this Uber phenomena where they go from 0 to 1 billion. They go from nowhere to everywhere. Airbnb, was out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, kaboom! They got more hotel room nights in Manhattan than other 5x than everybody else. So it's incredible when it's right, when you nail it. It's incredible. So hopefully you've thought about that. And if you're like me, you smile a little bit because that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling. It fits you like a glove. And that's the thing. It fits you like a glove because they've understood your outcomes. So let me tell you about Nutricia Danone. So I said before, they've been struggling, right? They've got all these large global mega brands coming into their market. They're defending their territory. It's baby powder, right? Baby powder. Now, remember, you parents, right? You remember, you couldn't spend enough money. If I could have really done that again, I'd have probably bought secondhand everything, because we all first parents go out and buy the most expensive crib and the most expensive stroller, as much as money as you can afford, because nothing is too good for your baby. Nothing is too good. So we do all that stuff, but still, it's baby powder, it's diapers. It's going to work. It's fine. So they were struggling with differentiation. They were struggling with competing in this new global marketplace. And they needed to do something different. So they started working with us. Lars and his team, Chris Nash particularly, started working with them about how to rethink, how to do a rethink on the whole thing. And they stepped back and they went through these exercises. And one of the things they sort of crystallized moment said, in a moment of sort of discovery and aha, they said, the single most important thing is the date of birth, the due date. The single most important thing. There's a lot of other things we want to know, but everything revolves around that, okay? So that became the moment, because they weren't focused on selling products anymore. They've completely switched gears, and now they were thinking about, how do I become useful? What utility value can I have with these people? What kinds of things can I do for them, in service of them, to make things better for them, to those outcomes? Healthy, happy baby, and confident parents, confident moms particularly, right? Because, guys, we're not doing the work, right? We're here to support, we're not doing the work. So it was really, really centered on the mom. So all of a sudden, we're rethinking everything we do. And it's not about products and product streets and nutritional values, no. This is about how to make that mom more confident and how to help her feel like she's gonna have a healthy, happy baby. And what do we do to support that idea? So we started thinking about it, and due date became the thing, because everything revolved around when this baby was gonna be born in its baby's journey. And so we started to think about that, and we started to craft what other pieces of information can we use to be useful? What other things can we use to create utility to the mom? That's really what it became. It became a mission. How do we help? How can we help? And they did that. They built this timeline. They went through and thought through this, and they created this thing they called the mother's journey. And the mother's journey was really that. It was her journey and this baby that was inside her, and what stages and what moments of truth could we create, and what kind of useful, utility-based things can we create to help her achieve that outcome of healthy, happy baby, and help her be more confident. So we did that. We went through and we created those moments of truth. We found those moments of truth. We said, what does she need to know at every one of those moments of truth? And they built out an array of information that helped nurture her and her baby through that date of birth, and then up to the first 18 months of that baby's life, because that's the products that they had to sell. But they weren't selling products. They were selling healthy, happy baby and confident mom. And they did a bunch of alignment. So they really organized their entire staff to think about what kind of context, what kind of situations, and where can we be meaningful and useful and helpful, and where are those places that we could do. And of course, the first thing they knew is that to be trusted and to create confidence in moms, you have to listen, right? You have to listen to what she said. You have to hear her, and you have to play that forward. She told you things, and you have to remember those things. And you have to show that you know her. Because if you don't, and you treat her just as a generic person again and again and again, she's going to lose confidence in everything you've said. So you have to build confidence and trust. So they built confidence and trust, and they listened, and they put, of course, everything in the XDB. So they took this journey and everything, and they had a mission to create everything that they had, every interaction, including offline interactions. This was the mission for them. Because this trust thing was so important to them. This confidence that was the mission about healthy, happy baby, confident mom, hinged on that. Hinged on the fact that everything you told me, I was going to play it forward. I was going to tell you, I was going to show you I know you. I was going to show you I'm listening. And that's really important. Very important for those moms. So they put everything in the XDB. That's great. And then they used it. And then they used it everywhere. So as they built out various different, mobile web interactions, they figured out the form factors that moms were using. They figured out what she was doing across all those form factors, what they wanted to be listening for, and what they wanted to be telling in a utility-based way. So they were all about utility, and what can I share with you in a utility-based way. So they thought about that from the web's perspective. That's great. That's good. More interesting. Mobile app. Sometimes mobile web's good enough. Sometimes it's not. So they built this mobile web. But this mobile web was also all about utility. Now, interesting stat, 23% of the women in the Benelux region, this is all happening in the Benelux region, so that's Netherlands and Belgium and Luxembourg, if you guys know where that is. So all of that region, so 23% of the women use this thing. That's a lot, because I don't think there's that many women pregnant at one time in Benelux, but this seems like a lot to me. So they're all using this thing. Internally, they call this thing the Mother's Swiss Army knife. Interesting term, Mother's Swiss Army knife. Why? Because it's about utility. It's about being useful. So everything they put in this thing was about utility. Now it's connected to the XDB, so it's sharing everything you need to know right now. So they're delivering all that stuff that mom needs to know now, and that wherever she is in that journey, they're thinking about that. And of course, they're collecting. They're also understanding what her hopes and fears and dreams are, so that they can be playing that forward and paying off on all that, because it's a value for value exchange. Every time she tells us something, we need to figure out how we can use it and deliver value back to her in a useful and utility-based way. Interesting. All right, so now we have this mobile app. And this mobile app is listening, and it's sharing knowledge, and it's offline as well, so she could be using this anywhere and everywhere. She's got it in her pocket. So when something freaks her out because the baby just did something that hadn't happened before, she can pull this thing out and go, is this normal? Is this normal? Number one question new parents ask, is this normal? My baby just threw up 5 feet. Is that normal? Yeah, all sorts of weird fluid experiences with new babies, right? Is this normal? Confidence. This is okay. This happened before. So that's what they're doing. They're creating a support network for mom. Okay, let's go forward. Events, physical events. There's these trade shows, these fairs, these mom fairs that they have. And so the moms, because they've all along this journey have learned that if I tell you something, you're going to give me good stuff back. So now we've built this habit with all these moms. Now these moms know that when they tell me something, I'm going to get good stuff back. So what do? The first thing they do is they talk to that person that's at that fair, that counselor, who's going to be able to give them some good advice, and they want them to know them. So what do? They say, I'm this user ID on the website. I'm this user ID on the website because I want you to know all this history. Because it's like calling that call center and you punched in your phone number or your account code, and then the first thing the agent does is ask you for the account code again. It's irritating, right? So they want that counselor to know everything about them. So that's the first thing that happens. They pull that thing up and they get the context of that person so they can get better advice. So now we've trained these moms to share and connect physically, the physical world, with the offline world. And of course, these trade shows, they did a really cool thing. I don't think this works in every industry, but this is really cool for this one. They call it this magic mirror. This magic mirror, essentially, again, once we know who this mom is, we know what her due date is, we know where this baby is in this journey, we can actually help her visualize where this baby is in her. How big, what the baby's doing right now. And it's this really magical moment because the moms just really get excited about this, right? It's the same kind of feeling you got when that first ultrasound happened. Now they've got these crazy 3D printable ultrasounds, which is a little bit creepy. But this just tells you what moms want, right? This is what moms want to know. Where is my baby? What does my baby look like? So they project this baby on her belly, and that's really cool. It's a magic moment. And of course, we know that. And that tells us stuff about mom. That tells us who she is. That tells us what she wants to know. So again, it's every signal is being listened to, and we're trying to use that. And of course, at some of those trade shows, they may buy stuff. They may buy stuff from us, and that's great. Of course, if this is mom, and she's late stage and she's got a little bit of a waddle going on, she doesn't want to carry heavy stuff. So we ship it to her for free at home. We know where she lives because we have all that stuff already. She doesn't have to give us all that information. We immediately utilize everything we've got in her profile to just ship that to her house. We do it for free because that's useful. We do it for free because it's helpful and it's utility based. And so she buys stuff from us, and she gets stacked, gets all of her stuff ready to go, so that when this baby is born, she's got all she needs, and she's buying it from us. She's not going to the grocery store. She's not carrying it, so she's going to buy more from us, and that works out pretty well because moms buy a lot more stuff when they don't have to carry it, and it's useful, and so again, it's just all about this. And of course, my absolute favorite, the vending machine. They've connected the vending machine. So it's 2 a.m. and you forgot to go shopping. You can run to the train station and you can pick up some formula. Remember, these guys are European and they're connected, right? They got great train systems. So They could go get this stuff at the train station if they have to, or on the way home from work, even better. And you log in. You log in, and it's connected to the XDB, of course, and it's telling you exactly what you should order or what you should buy, because that's very helpful. And and we can also set up a rebuy for you on the, so that you don't forget it next time, and you just get it shipped to you automatically. So again, just all about being useful, all about being utility from everything we can think about. How can we be helpful to you? So we've orchestrated in this cohesive experience. We've sort of quarterbacked all the things we think she needs to know and when and why, right? The context of those situations, and using those to be useful, to achieve that outcome. And so I said earlier, this stuff pays off. I said earlier that, that hockey stick of when it gets right, when you hit a nerve, things go well. Hit a nerve. 75% month-over-month growth. 75% grew month after month after month. The data here is a little old. It's from June. So in the first 6 months of the year, they'd grown 800% over the previous year. Holy cats. Now, it's a small number. It started from a small number, but it's not slowing down. It's just the curve is swinging up. They hit a nerve. And every mom, they all talk, right? Moms talk, because it's a sport network. So the mom and the mom groups and all those things, they're all talking. And they're all sharing that story. And they all want to be a part of it because it's so useful. So these guys are experiencing explosive, meteoric growth because they got it right, because they thought about the right stuff. They thought about the outcome. They thought about what the mom wanted, how to have a healthy, happy baby, and how to be more confident. So when you get this right, it pays off big. It pays off. It's a very different way of thinking, though, because they could have doubled down on PPC, and they could have doubled down on more marketing campaigns and stuff. I don't think it would have had the same impact, though. I don't know about you. But this, when they get this right, it's amazing. A couple things that they did that were pretty interesting that I thought I would share with you. So first of all, one of the things we do in SBOSS, that Lars and Chris and that team will tell you, and it seems very obvious, but it is not very obvious. Connect the digital goals with the business goals with the strategic goals of your business. It's, as obvious as that sounds, not everyone does it, and you should. Connecting and creating that traceability out so that what your corporate strategic goals are aligned to the business unit goals and the digital goals. And of course they did that because they were rethinking this experience from the bottom up. They also involved everybody. It wasn't just a marketing idea. It wasn't just a marketing function. They brought wide teams together. They brought commerce together. And an interesting point is they were terrified. They were terrified to do this because they were really worried they were going to disintermediate their channel. They sell a lot of product through grocery stores. They were totally worried they were going to really tick off those grocery vendors. Oddly enough, they're seeing huge amounts of repurchases. So not only are they having this explosive e-commerce growth, they're also selling a lot more in the stores, and the rebuy rates have grown 140%. So moms buy this stuff, dads buy this stuff again and again and again. So they're creating huge loyalty amount, huge amount of loyalty in the physical brick and mortar stores as well as online. So their partners are really happy because they're seeing growth. They're having tremendous growth in the digital channel, the e-commerce channel, and they're building incredible loyalty that will be, I would argue, will be generational. It will be generational because they've become a part of these people's lives now, this trusted source, and that emotion creates experience, creates memory, and that emotional time that this mom is going through and the dad's going through is incredible. So they created an amazing amount of alignment, and that is going to pay off big for their business. Okay. Fonzie. So I'm going to just pick on the word experience for a couple minutes. If you're like me, you get a little frustrated sometimes because experience is this big word. It means everything, and when a word means everything, it means nothing. So this idea of experience, is it overplayed, right? We keep talking about this word experience all the time, and I think it's important. Fundamentally, it's important, but I'm starting to use different language, and I thought I would just share it with you. I feel a little bit like Fonzie has jumped the shark a little bit here, right? The Height of the Happy Days episode, for you young folk, as a lot of these shows go, right? Every season is about one-upping the last season, and at some point, some writer thought that it would be brilliant if Fonzarelli would jump over a shark tank. The first time on a motorcycle, second time on skis. right? And that was sort of the pinnacle of that show, and then it just, that was its top moment, and then it went down from there. And I almost wonder a little bit, is maybe that happening with experience a little bit? Because I think the focus is too much on experience, and what I'm going to say is that it may be not just about experience. Maybe it is really about this idea of outcome. So I got a little math for you, a little algebra. My daughter's in 10th grade, so I have to do algebra every night, so I figured I'd share my pain with you. So what is context? I'm going to say that context and outcomes are very important, and context is becoming the most important thing that I'm seeing out there in the marketplace. So when you apply intelligence, the right place, right time stuff, right? I'm listening to you, what Danone did with the moms. I'm listening to everything you say, and I'm demonstrating that I know you. So that intelligence, the things we put in the XDB, and the way we use what we know to share in a smart way things back to you, right? That's context, right? That I'm putting the right thing on your phone, and I'm not giving you some crazy big form factor you can't consume, right? Being smart about what I know about you and using that to deliver the right thing. That's context, right? So I'm going to say that content times intelligence equals context, right? Now, when you apply context across many different interactions, right? Essentially what Danone did, right? When you start to use that context in a consistent and in a cohesive way, now you're creating a journey, right? Because it's not just a bunch of disconnected dots. Now they become connected. So now we've created some connectivity across this thing, and it becomes a journey because there's a cohesiveness to it. And when you take journeys, these journeys that we have, buyer journeys, customer journeys, insert word journeys, when you create those and you mix those well with products, right? Because we're still selling stuff, right? Services, products, physical goods. We're still selling something in the day. But when you blend the journey, which is made up of intelligence and content and smartly applied across many places, many channels, when you do all that stuff and you mix that well with the product, you enrich the product with those things, that's what creates outcomes. That's what creates outcomes. Let me say it differently. Just a different way to look at this. You have two experiences. You have an experience with the brand, experience with the company, right? You're interacting with them, whether it's on a phone, whether it's in an email, whether it's on their website. You have a call center, whatever it is, right? You have experiences with the company, the employees of the company, or some sort of downstream derivative of that. You have an experience with the brand. But you also have an experience with the product, right? And those things are connected. And they're actually getting more connected. Because with the Internet of Things, those products are going to start talking back. They're going to start telling you things. They're going to start sharing knowledge about you. So this is opportunity, but even if it were just a rock, right? Even if it were just a pet rock. Remember those pet rocks? Little googly eyes. Even if it's just a pet rock, right? There is an opportunity to help that customer in that journey consume that pet rock in the best possible way. There is an opportunity to create this moment where, just like Danone did with baby powder, baby formula, there is an opportunity to enrich that product with experience and content and things like that. So I'm going to make a point here that what has to happen is we blend those worlds. Oftentimes we stop. We sold something and we stop. But really, there's just a beginning of the opportunity that we can extend that relationship with them, and we can be enriching that product with experience, just like Steve Jobs did with the iPhone, right? He wasn't just building an MP3 player. He was building a full-on experience that consumed all the way through the life cycle and thought about the product consumption process, right? I was talking to a vacuum cleaner vendor the other day, and I'm like, why do you not help me make a better use of your product? Why do you not help teach me how to get the best results with your product? Why don't you nurture me through this life cycle? Because I'm going to buy one of these things in another 5 years. Shouldn't you have a relationship with me? Things like that. So going beyond that, right? Going beyond just the product and encapsulating that with content and rich interactions. And when you do that, when you create those things, you drive outcomes because you're building those intentionally. And in fact, you start changing your products to drive outcomes. That's even better. And then it creates loyalty, and then it creates better share of wallet because they're going to buy more stuff from you. Because people buy a lot of Apple products now, don't they? Unless you hate them, then that's fine if you're a big Android guy and gal. But a lot of people buy a lot of stuff from Apple because they trust them. They trust what I'm going to get from them. So I want to make that point. Now, We talk a lot about experience. We talk a lot about this outcome stuff. The web's still important, right? Our friends at Forrester said it pretty well. The backbone, right? The web's a backbone. Why is it the backbone? It's a backbone because everything leads to it. Content is the anchor for a lot of this stuff. I've said before, content is the currency. It's the currency that you purchase customers' attentions with. It's a chance for you to create a moment with them about outcomes. Because content's really interesting, right? We could be delivering information and content and context to them about the outcome. But if you just want to talk about your product, that's not really that interesting. Unless it's about getting more value out of the product, then that's a little interesting. But helping them understand the outcome of what they want, now that's interesting. Guess what? That's content marketing. That's just all that is. That's content marketing. But it's thinking about the outcomes. It's thinking about what that customer really wanted. What a customer really wanted from you. So a couple of other interesting stats. You were seeing a tremendous amount of crossover between these channels, particularly mobile and web. That there are certain kind of tasks start in one place and flip to the other, and then flip back again. So we're seeing a lot of this sort of, especially in millennials, flipping back and forth and using the right tool for the right job. So don't be concerned when people say, "Oh, the web is dead," because I don't know how many times you've heard that. I've heard it a bunch. It's not. It's just a different tool in the journey. It's just a different tool along the way. And don't forget that content's important, but context is as important. As my wife would point out to me, that the queen actually rules the roost. So probably made it a little more important. But you can't have context without content. So they're mutually interdependent. But the point is that using context in a smart way, throughout, everything we learn, and you're listening and you're applying. Listening and applying. But to what end, right? The SBOSS folks would tell you, to the end that you help them through what they wanted, right? It's about applying it not to sell your product. It's applying it to help them achieve the outcome to which they want to buy your product. And it's a subtle but important difference. Because context needs data, right? And we have a perfect opportunity with things like the XDB to put it all in a single place that you can use it everywhere. But what's in this for you? Why do you care, right? If you're a customer, if you're a partner, why do you care? What does this mean? Because I want you to stay around a while. I don't want you to be one of those 40% that's gone in 10 years. I would like you to rethink your business and start to push for change. I would like you to think about this. And I got a picture of the Tesla up here because Tesla is a fascinating thing to me because they didn't build a car. They built a platform, a computing platform on wheels that's configurable. And to me, that's so interesting because it's the fusion of what the customer really wanted with the driving experience, right? And thinking about how else can I make this a delightful experience to the point where, Bjarne Hansen runs North America for Sitecore. He owns one of these things, and he was telling me that story about how his Tesla lifts up when he gets close to his driveway because it knows it's his Tesla. It knows that he's got a steep driveway, and it lifts up because somebody somewhere thought about that. Thought about what is the customer really trying to do? And they're just right now you can buy any car to get to point A to point B. They're making it fun and convenient. So they're rethinking what the outcome is for you, that driver, who can afford one of those ridiculously expensive cars. Hopefully it'll get cheaper. That Model X isn't any cheaper, by the way. That thing's expensive. But I will own one of these things one day because I love the fact that they thought about everything I want as a driver, and they're breaking the mold. They're Ubering the motor industry the car industry, because they're thinking about it differently. They're thinking about the outcome of the customer. So how do we get to this nirvana place? How do we go there, right? So good news. Some of it's there already. This is really about intent. This isn't a lot of new technology. Some of this is stuff you already own. We've thought about this for a while now. We were thinking about context, and we're thinking about this data and what it takes. So we're really focused on this in the product. We're really focused on this from a content perspective and from a context perspective. The three pillars that we talk about most often is this idea of context, and how do we do this is first knowing your customer, right? That was the whole point behind the XDB. Know your customer, and then use everything you know everywhere. The other thing we were trying to do is start to surface places where all this great knowledge can be useful, but only if you are aware of it, only if you can see the patterns. So how do we take some of those patterns and those things that the insights we're gleaning in an automatic way, a la things like machine learning. How do we surface that goodness back to you as a Sitecore user to see those opportunities, those moments? Because sometimes that gets buried, and if you're not looking at the right report at the right time, at the right place, you're going to miss it. So again, trying to find places where we can surface that back to you. And then moving beyond just the acquisition, right? Moving beyond just the marketing to the customer lifecycle, to the both sides of that chart, where it's not just about the company experience, it's about the product experience. I think there's a real opportunity for us all in this room to even take our products, whatever they are, and extend them with content and context, encapsulate them, and create those outcomes. So, if you're a brand and you're selling to a certain demographic, think about what that demographic really wanted, and start to encapsulate how you help them achieve more with whatever it is you sell, get more value from whatever it is you do. I think there's a huge opportunity, and of course, we're putting a lot of energy into our roadmap around this. I'm not gonna burrow deep into this because I think Yepa and Ryan are going to do this tomorrow in the afternoon. But as we think about our roadmap and we think about what we're doing, a lot of it is around this. How do we help you get more value out of context? How do we help you do more and deliver more to customers? We're already seeing it with customers. We saw it with Nutricia Danone. It's amazing. This is why I get up in the morning, to help companies rethink and transform their business. That's amazing. That's what gets me excited. And I want to see more. I want to see more of that. I want to tell your story next year. So we're putting tons of this in the product because there's a combination of that company experience and that product experience. Commerce is important in that as well. We have lots of commerce vendors out here in the room. And I want to bring all of those experiences, the company experience, the product experience, the purchase experience, all those things need to aggregate to these outcomes. And as we think about that, that's where we're investing. So we're thinking about how we help you have the tools to do that, how we help you create those outcomes. We've even actually created the actual thing, outcomes in the product. So we actually have surfaced this notion of outcomes, those meaningful events, the outcome that customers wanted, so that you can actually start to surface that and measure that and start understanding that. So we're very much focused on that as we think through what things do we have to integrate with, what things do we have to pull together to help you do that. Content is important, context is important. Those are really the sort of the yin and the yang of outcomes, right? Understanding these people, using that, applying it consistently across journeys. But part of this has nothing to do with technology. Outcomes, the idea of outcomes, the outcome-centric model is very much independent of technology, right? And it predates Sitecore because we've been talking about outside-in thinking. And if you're a fan of pragmatic marketing, you've read about this. You've read about this idea of outside in. What did that customer want? There's actually a really great book that even talks a lot about this called Tuned In that was written by the pragmatic marketing guys. I've read it, and it's really about thinking about what the customer wanted. So again, you can use technology to make that better. And my argument to you is you have some of that technology and you can make this better. You just got to think about it that way. And the things we're doing in 8.1 is along those lines. We're starting to think about more context. Things like from bringing in venue, this idea of venue, and you may have heard about this in the XDB session. We're thinking about the physical places you are, right? Because that's context. We're actually making it easier to understand the kind of devices people are using. We're starting to think about how do we help you have more context, how do we help you use that context more effectively, and how do we actually help you orchestrate all this data you've got to make better decisions faster. I recently blogged about this idea of time compression. I blog a lot on LinkedIn, and if you've read any of my stuff, I talk about this idea of bringing down the time scale that it takes to realize stuff, to realize an opportunity. That's really where we're focused. How do we help you realize these things more quickly? Put those in your hands so you can make a decision and act. That's really it. It's compressing the time it takes you to analyze, get an insight, make a decision, and action that decision. That's really the idea. So a lot of our energy is put into that. And then, even moving down the road into 8.2. 8.2 is the same thing. It's really a refinement on what kind of context can we deliver to you? What kinds of insights can we surface? What kind of dynamic segments are emerging that are the best segments to be engaging towards these outcomes? What kinds of behavior can help you engage customers more consistently? How can we help you be more consistent from channel X to channel Y as they're flowing through? How do we give you better, visibility into what's happening? These are all the tools that we need to build for you. These are all the tools that we're working on to build for you. But it's really about content and context, and really creating those journeys and creating those things to the end of creating these outcomes. Because if you rethink your business, if you rethink how you go to market around this outside-in thinking and around this, you could be the next Uber. You could be the next Airbnb. You could rock your industry. You could be Nutrition unknown. Because I guarantee you, everyone else in their industry right now is going, what the heck happened? They all just got run over by a truck. And they're all wondering, how did this happen? And guess what? That's hard to beat. That's not lowering a price. To win those customers back, that's hard. So they now have sustained, unfair competitive advantage. I would like you to have that as well. So I'm going to wrap up. But lots more to detail tomorrow on the roadmap. I'm just covering it at a superficial level. But I want you to know that we're thinking about this. I want you to know this is where we put our energy and why. This is important. This is that moment, right? That John Chambers moment. 40% of you will not be here in 10 years in a meaningful way. I don't want that to be you. This is our opportunity to actually rise and do some disruption of our own. And again, thanks for being here. And thank you again to all of our great sponsors. You guys are amazing.